G'day everyone, Turbo Tristan here. In today's video, we are back on the TEG, VTEC, and we will be pulling apart the engine which we removed in the last video, doing some service items. We've got a whole bunch of parts down there which need to go in here, and we'll be pulling off the manifold and all of that stuff, getting everything cleaned up, so the car will be getting a full overhaul. Although the outside is going to stay rough and we're going to keep it a sleeper, everything under the bonnet is going to be fresh and brand new, and we're going to make sure everything is safe. So we will look at brake pads, brake rotors all the way around. I noticed that the rear engine mount, which I'll show you later on when we replace that, is absolutely cactus. The steering rack boots, absolutely cactus. The steering rods or tie rods are absolutely cactus as well. So we've pressure washed everything, given everything a clean within the whole engine bay, and I've given the car a safety check. So before you add boost and before you add power, what you need to do is make sure the car and the chassis and everything can handle it. There's no rust holes, everything else is good inside here. But before we get big power, we want good brakes, we want good suspension, which it already has. We want to make sure all the suspension bushes are sweet. We want to make sure all the steering arms, steering rack boots and all of that are all sweet. This was caked in oil all around here, leaking from the power steering, everything, all of this frame rail, which is now spotlessly clean, was totally encased in grease and power steering fluid that was leaking, oil that was leaking, just everything here was just totally caked in oil. Now she isn't. Just want to point out one thing though. What's going on, Honda? Forgot to paint half the rail behind the radiator. All this is all not even painted, it's still in undercoat. All the way around, both sides, all the way back, even the back of the firewall. So my first thought was, oh, the car's had a front ender and they've replaced the front rad support, but it's actually all the way back to the firewall. They just haven't painted anything. Even underneath here is all still in primer, which is really weird. Honda, come on, pick up your game. My Honda Civic is still green all the way underneath and all through the car, even though I've painted the whole car outside, inside, engine bay a few times. There's still green bits all under there. So the Integras, they really are, skimped out on. This looks familiar as well. This subframe in the Integra DC2 is exactly the same as a EG Civic from the early 90s, and this is what I have in my K-Swap Civic because it's heaps of space for K-Swap things, exhaust and headers and stuff, whereas the EK one comes out to around about here, so it's quite a lot bigger, takes up a lot of room. But anyway, that's a useless fact. Only people doing K-Swap stuff will want to know about that. This is a B-series build, which we're going to get to. I've already undone the crank bolt, and I'm going to pull all of this off here. I'm going to take the intake manifold off for two reasons. I'm going to clean it, and I'm going to look at what I can do about sealing off this butterfly. If we have to run it, we will, but otherwise I'd like to keep that sealed off. Check all the vacuum lines and everything under there. I have cleaned the entire engine with oven cleaner, degreaser, prep wash, everything like that, and it's still absolutely filthy, but we're not done yet. My thoughts on the build will be to paint everything gloss 2K black under the bonnet, so gloss black rocker cover, sand this clear so it's silver and polished for the VTEC writing and the Honda logo, and everything else will be gloss black or matte black, so it's all total sleeper and just to look nice and classy because it's a street build. The other option I'm thinking, we've got gold wheels on the car. The car is burgundy, so we either do a burgundy rocker cover, which is the factory color, or we do a gold one, which does look quite good as well, in a nice deep gold gloss metallic, something very bright. I don't know, I think it's safer to either go with the body color or black. Let me know in the comments what color you think I should do the theme under the hood. Let's put this on a time lapse. Yep, we're going old school. We're doing a time lapse. Enjoy the tunes, enjoy the pulling apart. We're going to tear this down, and I'm going to drop everything down there in that bucket, which is filled with 20 litres of degreaser. I'll let that all soak for a few days, and that way everything is perfectly clean and fresh There's no oil gunked up in the galleries. That way we've got full VTEC, full oil dispersion all around the whole engine bay, so everything will be sweet. One other thing, the extra mile to make sure this build is perfect.
Así me gusta sofocar. 7 copas, una juca tequila. Sal y sal y sal y sal y perrear. No tienes vergüenza, mami. Baby, quiero ser el río de tu Tokio. Chingamos en la casa de papel sin negocio. Esta vida nunca se acaba la fiesta. Comiéndote todo el día que se joda esa dieta. I tell that sucker, 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 yeah. I make this motherfucker bad. Culi suelta, media loca, baila choca. I make this motherfucker bad. Rebelde y grites, dángale. Bandidos en la noche, yo que mando aquí. Ven acá, suelte mami, así me gusta sofocar. 7 copas, una juca tequila. Sal y sal y sal y sal, perrear. Sal y sal y sal y sal. No tienes vergüenza, mami. Sal y sal, sal, sal. Ajá, no tienes vergüenza, mami.
I got the fattest ass in Queens, bitch. And we really getting money. B. What's up? Robando corazón y todo el dinero. Me gustan los bandoles.
Alrighty, so we're halfway through the teardown process. I'm still going to get up here and do all of this, but thought I'd take a break here, and we found that the knock sensor is actually cooked. These are a big problem in K-series. This plastic end just cracks straight off, and that's how it was sort of sitting underneath there. Now, I don't know if that's why the VTEC wasn't working well. It could be my fault when I unplugged it. They're very, very brittle. Could also be my fault when I took this manifold off. So either way, regardless of whose fault it is, I'm going to get a new one anyway. We'll get one of those from PAT RACEWORKS, and we'll swap that in there when we put it all back together. So we found an issue. Hopefully that's one of them. We're going to pull all these hoses off, block the ones we don't need anymore, and reroute some of them. Although it does get absolutely freezing here in Melbourne, it doesn't get frosty frozen. We don't actually need all the coolant lines that run through the throttle body and through the idle air control valve and all that sort of stuff. So we're going to delete all of those because it's just excess crap that's in the road that sort of stuff is stuff that will leak, cause overheating issues, let pressure out, all that sort of stuff. We will need to track down some new hoses for here. These ones are just bypass around the head and past the thermostat. One thing I did want to show you as well though, here's the throttle body. We're going to replace all of these gaskets in here. We'll have to get those from Elusive. They keep all the hard to get B series gaskets and things on the shelf. Genuine Honda, so we'll get some of those. Yuck. Look at the water, how brown that is coming out of the throttle body. So we're going to delete all of that crap. But what I wanted to show you was the intake plenum. So here it is here, there's actually 8 ports, and you've got a sort of a bypass here with these square ones at the back, and then the big ones are vacuum operated. So when VTEC and everything kicks on, these will actually open to allow more airflow in there, and it's split right through the middle. Technically, I could cut all this up and extend these ports, giving more volume in the plenum. I'll have a think about it. I might do some Googling and see if people do port these out and if there's any advantage in it. It might not be, it might be a big waste of time, but how could there not be? I'm gonna get this bead blasted, cleaned up. We're gonna soak it in the degreaser and get all the oil and gunk out of there. It was pretty oily. There was actually oil flowing into here. The top of the plenum, which is already soaking over there in the tub, actually had liquid, like running liquid oil in there. So either quite a lot's getting through the bypass system or through the valve stem seals, which it wouldn't be going backwards. It'd be going out the exhaust, which it did, but a lot of oil in there. This is the butterfly system that lives in there. So these ones are always open, and then you've got the butterflies, which are vacuum operated there. Now, the easiest way to do this is just to unscrew those Phillips head screws in there and just take the blades out. That way you don't have to worry about sealing up the ends. I haven't decided whether I'm going to delete all of this and I'll get these alloy ends welded up on both sides, just blob that full of booger welds of alloy so that no air can get out, and then slide out the whole pin and everything. That would be the best way to do it. So there's zero restrictions. We have brand new injectors, we have new fittings, we have new pigtails, we have all new fittings for here and fuel reg, which goes on here. We've got the adapter as well, all from RACEWORKS. So we'll be refurbishing this whole line and changing out the fittings on the end for more flow. These fittings are great, but they do restrict the fuel flow, as I found out in my D series. Same fitting, I deleted that, put an AN fitting, threaded it into there, and I picked up 10 PSI of fuel pressure, which is unheard of, but it actually, that's what it showed on the gauge, so can't deny the science. So I'm going to delete that, run the new RACEWORKS fitting on there with all new bigger fuel lines all the way through, and we should be making plenty of power with the fuel system in the end. Another thing to note, which is also to be expected, was the water pump. There was all this sort of like soft red goop around it and all crusty crap. So another maintenance item which we will be changing. We'll keep going and get rid of more of these parts, get everything cleaned up and dumped into the vat of degreaser. I've been marking parts of the intake and exhaust side with an X for exhaust and an I for intake on the cam gears and all that sort of stuff. Although they look identical, I'm just going to put everything back where it came from. So it's a good idea to mark them. I'm going to do the same with these plates on top of the rocker assembly. I'm just going to put a little scratch on them with my little scribe, just so I know. That's if, at the moment I can't see any markings on them. That probably does say inlet and exhaust, but I'm just going to mark it anyway with my own scratch.
Baby, tomamos 3 tazas, una con veneno y 2 con muchas ganas. Y baby tengo ganas, chingarte aquí, debajo del cielo, encima de mí. Yeah, I'm a risk it all, baby, keep it high key.
All right, so you've just seen me take out the camshafts and give them a clean up. So I've gotten all the grease and grime and everything off there and just made sure everything's all clean in and out. So that's been all scrubbed up, bit of fluff on there. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to store these away. But before I do, I'm going to use some CRC long life anti-rust lubricant. I'm going to give these a big soak. Put that on here like so. Just coat them all with this really thick lube, because you don't want any rust or anything build up on there. This is the same stuff I used when I built my RB engine, just while it was sitting around. So for starters, we're just going to roll this up so it can't get damaged. And I'll do the same with the other cam, of course. Why would you not do both of them? You can just use regular oil if you want to, but we've got this, so we may as well use it. Now that's going to do it mostly for the engine for now. We're not going to pull the head off because the compression was great, so there's no need for that. We do need to pop these guys up though, which will mean push the pins in so they all lock together. And we will be taking out the valve springs and retainers because we've got to get to the valve stem seals. Now, as you saw when I drove the car, it was very smoky out the back. This is a very common B series thing. So we'll do that in a later episode because I need to get a fitting that will blow air inside the chambers and keep that all pressurized while I do each one. So I'll do that at a later date, but everything else looks good. I'm going to give this a really thorough clean and a scrub down with, well, not a scrub, but a thorough clean with a few chemicals, and we'll tip it upside down, let it drain upside down so that all of that crap runs out, so that it's fresh for when we start it up next time. Time to pull the sump off this bad boy. Hopefully it looks pretty good under here. Not a great deal of sludge or anything really in the oil pan, but we're going to give that a good clean up anyway. We have to weld the bung in for the drain, so we'll get that done. I'm undecided whether or not I pull the oil pump off and give that a good clean out. I can see already there's a little bit of something stuck inside the bottom of the oil pickup, so it might be an idea just to pop that off. It's just 2 10s there and 2 10s there and there, and give that a good clean out as well. Probably we'll end up taking off the oil pump and giving it a clean out, and maybe chuck in an extra couple of washes or something to get some more oil pressure in there. Don't know, haven't decided yet. Let me know what you think in the comments. All right, so I've just popped this guy off. You can see in there a little bit of something or other. Just a bit of silicone, but it pays to check there's more in there, so save that. All right, that's not good, a little metal ring. Well, actually it is good. It's good that it's been stopped from going into the engine. Yeah, I'll need 2 hands and I'll give this a good clean. But can anyone tell me what that is? Little semicircle, circlippy type thing. Hopefully it's not off one of the wrist pins of the pistons, because that would be catastrophic. But something tells me it's not, because it's so thin and tiny. It's like 1 millimeter thick. But there's a few pieces of silicone in there, which is to be expected, pretty normal. It's inside every engine. But I'll give this a good clean out with some brake cleaner. See what else we can find. I'm going to end this video off here. It took me way longer than I thought to clean and go through the whole engine, but she's fully disassembled now. I've sprayed some CRC long life lubricant on there, so everything is covered, so the moisture in the air and anything can't get on any of the parts that need to stay nice and fresh and smooth. So all of these pieces are coated in here, and we've cleaned up everything on the engine bay and given it a full scrub down, cleaned all that out, cleaned all the ports out, cleaned all the block down. Everywhere is now clean. I've inspected the rod bearings, and although there's no movement in them, there is side-to-side movement, which is normal. I've recommended to Naoki that we're going to change the bearings on there. A set of rod bearings for this are around about $100, so we're going to get some of those. At the same time, we'll do the crank bearings, so we'll do all of those together. We've got to do the front and rear seals, so to pull all that stuff out, we may as well do it all. The intercooler is mounted nice and stealth. It's mounted from the top through the bumper support, so it's really nice and sturdy. That's not moving at all. I will put a second bracket on the bottom just to keep it even, but it really doesn't need one. This one's really just to pull this back a little bit. So it's on a very, very slight angle like that, just so it clears the angle of the bumper. And we'll have to trim a little bit here just for some pipes here and here, and make sure that we can fit intercooler pipes around there, which shouldn't be an issue. But that's where we're going to end off on this video. Sorry we didn't get to fit any of these awesome parts we've got down here. They'll be in a later video. Valve stem seals, I've ordered a tool to do that, and also another tool to pressurize the chamber so that the valves stay closed and we don't drop any down the cylinders. So that'll be sweet. And I've also ordered another tool to change them so we don't damage them when we're putting the new ones on. So that'll be exciting. Then it's put everything back together, camshafts, cam gears, timing belt kit, all of that. I'll pull the water pump off. I've pulled the water pump off. We've got a brand new one of those to go on. And I'll pull the oil pump off and change the seal, give that a good clean out, take the inspection plate off the back and just make sure there's no materials in there. And I may or may not high flow just that gallery there, not sure. And then it's putting it back together, weld up the sump, paint everything that needs to be painted. We're going to do the rocker cover. Don't forget, drop your comments below what color we should do it. It's going to match the burgundy and gold. I'm thinking just gloss black, or we might go a really nice fresh coat of the original paint on the top of the rocker cover and everything else black. Haven't decided what I'm going to do with this, whether we get an Amazon or an eBay manifold, whether we modify the heck out of this one. If anyone knows what we should do, you can pretty much unbolt and take the butterflies out, which I've done over there, and then just put the two halves together, but then you're shortening the chamber, the air capacity that can hold inside that plenum, and I'll have to port it all out and hack it all up for the hours and hours and hours and hours, and probably 1 or 2 days worth of work to get that done. It might just be better to buy a skunk knockoff on eBay and just be done with that and do the couple of little custom mods that I need to do on that. I think would be the neatest, the easiest, and the most cost effective as far as my time and Naoki's money goes to get the car where it needs to be and delete all that crap we don't need. But until next time, don't forget to spool up, bring the boost, and we'll see you in the next one. Stay tuned for more of this. Once the parts come in, we're going to be pumping out the videos on the VTEC build. So it's all coming together. The exciting stuff is coming in the next episode, I promise. We'll have some new sponsors to update you on and a ton of products. I've got boxes and shelves. Those 2 shelves are all parts for this car. So see you in the next one. Cheers.